Hello, my name is Lenteries, but you call me Lens, and welcome to Architectural Essentials Episode 3, Light and Dark and Space. This is an episode that I've been looking forward to because I think space in particular is something that even like the most expert builders in Minecraft tend to neglect quite a bit actually. It's kind of like mind games for architects. It's kind of interesting and intricate, I think, and hopefully I can make you enthusiastic about it as well. Um, so yeah, let's get right into it. Probably been focused on three particular areas. It's night, and this area is lit, the top of the dome is lit, and the bottom here is lit. So you've probably been focusing on, wow, frame rate drop. You've probably been focusing on one of these areas. This is very natural because these are lit and the other ones aren't. Um, so yeah, that's one of the uses of light and dark during the night. Draw attention again. Um, I have shaders enabled, so I have something that you don't have in vanilla Minecraft, but these shades grow longer and shorter depending on where the moon is in its cycle. Now, this is not something that you have in vanilla Minecraft, but it does help to make the facade look more interesting. This is something that architects would use as well. But since you don't have it in vanilla Minecraft, you do have kind of that this block is lighter as the one slated behind because their their light factor is one lower as the less the outer wall kind of. But it isn't changing depending on where the sun is in its cycle or the moon. So it's less functional in that sense. Um, Nevertheless, you can do a little bit with it. It's kind of more of a texture thing, I would say, though. If you are in vanilla Minecraft. So we moved on to the interior. I kind of drew your attention with this balcony being lit and this because we'll move on to the dome stuff next. So hopefully I kind of guided you, prepared you for what's going to happen, in a sense, with the use of light. Um, but yeah, we're now at like a museum expose kind of deal. We have these expose boxes or something. I'm not sure if they have a name. If they do, I don't know it. Anyway, these boxes are lit, and I want people to look at what the contents of these boxes. Um, yeah, and we have the Batmobile. Um, but yeah, this room isn't evenly lit. It tends to be a really bad idea to evenly lit any room. It's kind of a bad idea usually. Don't stick torches everywhere. Not on every pillar. Not on every corner. Don't try to evenly lit every room. It's having shades because that corner is really shady, or this row kind of until you get there. It kind of makes for intricate, interesting patterns and stuff, and the play of light again, drawing attention to particular things that you want to draw attention to. So I have general lighting kind of. I have general lighting, kind of that lamp and these two, even though these two are kind of focused. I wanted to lit the Batmobile a bit. So that's why I have these two, because I didn't want to break the line with this pattern that I was going for. But anyway, I've also these expose boxes are lit from the top or from down below. And interestingly enough, we kind of have the shade starting already here. I think this is quite interesting, going from light to dark. But yeah, personal preference, probably. Um, so this bench is lit as well. So I'm going for a bit more like interesting, intricate by also getting kind of shady corners and stuff. So hopefully you're feeling that. Hopefully it worked. Now if I toggle the downfall real quick, it kind of exaggerates what areas are lit and which aren't. So if you're going for something like a Hypixel nightmarish adventure map, then which have downfall always on, then light becomes even more important. So just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure if you're going to make such like an horror map or something in Minecraft, but that's something that if you do, you want to be taking use of. If only the downfall would stop. Come on. Yeah. Another use of the shaders. Now it's day. We kind of have these light patterns going on with the because of the patterns on the glass. Um, and if you think about churches, Western churches, they use a lot of symbolism in churches. So, like particular points during the summer or during the winter or whatever season, at a particular date, and they would calculate where the sun is at that point, and then where the light beam would hit an important part in the building, kind of like an altar, probably. And this is kind of the way that in churches they use this symbolism and special dates and special times to lit particular areas which are important to them. This is something that you would see in kind of the big church, probably more cathedral, because they were planned out so much. Like the amount of symbolism in churches and cathedrals is just, it's kind of also the reason I think why they're such a popular build in Minecraft, why everybody builds churches. They're kind of architectural feats usually. It's of course because religion is a good motivation to build epic stuff. But anyway, so if you're going to consider building a shaders, it's always good to keep in mind from which angles the sun comes. So if we just look at that direction, it's to the east, the sun comes up in the east and goes to the west. So yeah, if you want to make use of these kind of things, then do kind of you want to have the ship, I think it's called, the ship of the church to be I would say pointed towards sunset, because I think most masses are like at later at the day, right? I'm not sure. I'm not that religious, but yeah, if there are any symbolism, they're probably doing sunset. And yeah, so let's move on. I have some interesting lighting patterns here as well. Let's set it to 6,000 ticks, like you see. I'm not sure why that's covered up. Oh, by the tree. Anyway, we have some lighting patterns going on here as well. This is kind of my interpretation of glass inlet window dome thing. But yeah, it's a bit colorful. But yeah, we're now talking about space. With space, I mean how a room feels compared to you as a human. Now, this depends on like the function of the room, the intended use of it, and kind of like how big it is. Let's say any public building, you're going to be a lot of people are going to be there, and these spaces need to be bigger, because otherwise, let's say that you're going to be with 100 people in a 30 by 30 area with only 3 meters high. This is going to be uncomfortable. There might be enough just space standing, and everybody can fit in, but it's not a very comfortable room. You're kind of packed in. It kind of turns smelly real quick, and you have this heat of coming off all the people and heating up the room. It's not really pleasant to be in such a place. This is why like public areas tend to be a lot higher as other areas, so that not only like these smelly and hot air can travel upwards and this cold and fresh air comes down, but it just feels more comfortable. So yeah, this is kind of why lobbies and aulas are kind of always more spacious, I guess. And this is something that also, of course, works the other way around. As I said, sometimes you want to make people feel less comfortable in a room intended for some reason. So space is a really interesting element. This is the hallway compared to this is going to be a lot smaller, of course, but it's still quite high. It really feels, I think it feels really high as kind of. So yeah, I would feel comfortable walking through this with like dozens of people. Don't you think as well? Now, let's say these are toilets. Let's go in the men's toilet. This is a lot lower as the hallway, being such a derp. Now, and I have a lot of room above here, a lot of it, and but that doesn't matter, because for a toilet it isn't a problem that the ceiling is lower. because you're going to sit on the toilet. Now you don't want to have these large spacious open rooms where the sound is going to bounce off of all sides, and while you're shitting someone else can hear you really clearly, and it's not going to be a very pleasant experience. So toilets, yes, ceilings can be lower. Let's go into something that's kind of like a classroom with some seating here. Again, I'm doing something with light and dark. That corner is dark, and yeah, I think it makes it look more interesting. It's, I don't know. Depends on probably what you think. Anyway, this is also lower as the hallway. It's also lower as the hallway, but of course it's higher as the toilet. You're going to sit here and you're going to watch this dude, and might get a bit smelly if you're going to be here for a long extended period of time, but I think this is quite a comfortable room for such an occasion. So yeah. Now, one of the things with the height and the space in areas or rooms, if you're going to move quickly through a building with a lot of variations in height, it will feel really dynamic as well. So yeah. Now another thing that we can have a lower ceiling is kind of bedrooms, because you're going to lie in bed all the time there. It can be lower. You feel probably more comfortable being in a lower bedroom as well, because it's just a bit more cozy. It feels more comforting. Have something with light again. The sun is setting and it kind of trails over this hallway. It's interesting. It's fun little thing. But yeah, where was I? Oh yeah. Now, if you're going to go in a public building, let's say you're going to school. I guess most of you are students, right? Do pay attention to the ceilings, because let's say you're going to school, you're going through the spinning doors, and you enter the big lobby. If like entrance to this lobby is a problem, then directly behind the entrance, because that might be a choking point, is probably a lower ceiling. This is to make it feel less comfortable to stand still there, and make people move on to a larger area where they can spread more evenly. But if entrance isn't a problem, then of course it's probably high everywhere. But let's say it's not, then an architect will use a lower ceiling to kind of make the space feel less comfortable, to make people move on to another area and not stand in front of the entrance, which is going to mess up the whole kind of flow of people through a building. So yeah, this is kind of how they use space. Another way is to it's probably, if you're going to a classroom, it's probably going to be lower as the hallway, though the other way around is also possible. So you might feel more comfortable, and also it count for offices as well. If you're kind of in like a more modern industrial kind of, just more like cheap office space, you're going to probably have quite high hallways and then have lower offices. Like the ceiling can be like half a meter or even a meter lower. This is because this makes office feel more comfortable, less high, less imposing and stuff. Like in churches, they would have really high ceilings to make them really imposing. This is mind games again, on a like religious mind games. This is also another reason why I probably think churches are so popular, because they're just imposing, being such a large space, and yeah. What was I? And now I forgot where I was. Oh yeah. Offices will probably be lower as the hallways, but other ways around is also possible. Like I went to elementary school and the school had actually lower ceilings in the hallways as in the classes. And like the classes, the height would be comparable to height in classroom, like other schools I went to, but the hallways were a lot lower. This was to kind of force the kids to go outside, probably feel less comfortable, maybe kind of to get them either to play in the playground or be in class, and not have them hang around like around the lockers and stuff. And it's quite interesting to think about these notions, or maybe it's because kids are smaller. So yeah, this is quite an interesting subject, I think. space. But let's move on. Let's go. We go into the toilet, down the rabbit hole. Um, Now we are in the sewers. You're probably, there's a bit lit over there. You're probably going to go there. If this was an adventure map, you would go towards the light. But what if you want to trick the player? Then of course there's going to be a trap around that corner. And I'm not going to move towards the light. I'm going to go in the opposite direction because I built this map. But yeah, there's something lit again. You can see it's a dead alley. But we're moving on. This is quite an uncomfortable space, right? The ceiling is quite low. It's a sewer. It doesn't feel very comfortable at all. If we move up here, this is some light again. Now this is kind of like a cafe setting with these really low ceilings. Of course we came in through the sewers. There's also an entrance over there, but this is not like a really upper class kind of cafe. This is kind of where shady business gets conducted, like in an empty wine cellar or something that's turned over to a cafe. And okay, we have some light and dark again. We have the fireplace which emits light and also supposed to look warm, and people would want to sit in front of the fire. I'm not sure. The bar is lit by this lamp, kind of. So the most important parts are lit. Now what happens over here in this far corner is that we have this really shady dark corner where people with like knives in their pockets and play poker or Russian roulette or whatever, talk about bank heist and all this stuff. This is kind of like a shady bar, shady cafe where shady people drink cheap liquor and booze up. So hopefully, like this, because the ceiling is so low, it doesn't feel very rich. Hopefully, kind of this emits this feeling, what I'm going for. So if you instantly got this, then this is a good build. And yeah, I think this is kind of like most of the things that I wanted to talk about. Please do focus on like ceilings whenever you are in a public building. It's really interesting to think about these notions about the height and the space of these areas compared to you and kind of the function they have. I would really suggest you focus on them. It's interesting to see these things come back in real life. And let's get to the quick recap. Hello and welcome to the quick recap. Now we're looking at this area. It's currently like I've turned downfall on. This really exaggerates the difference between light and dark. We have this is kind of a museum setting. We have these boxes with expose stuff, and I want to draw attention to these boxes, so I use light and dark to really draw in the attention. This works really well for maps such as kind of horror maps, high pixel and nightmarish adventures such as Herobrine stuff. So yeah, if you're going for a horror map, do use the toggle downfall shit and make it rain all the day, because it helps out a lot. Now, this room isn't evenly lit. I play some bit with darkness and light. This makes the room feel more dynamic, and also want to draw attention to these things and not to everything. That's also why there's some general lighting, but not everywhere. So kind of for more interesting light play. And so yeah, light in the darkness, light is a very powerful way to direct attention to particular things or to make them focus on things that they shouldn't. So yeah, use light and dark as kind of for focusing, and never ever evenly lit a room. Never. It's rule of thumb. Don't do it. Stupid. Don't. Okay, now we're into space. Space is how a person relates to a room, how it feels, and it kind of also depends on the function of the room. Let's say we have a lobby. A lobby is going to be a lot of people going to be there, move through it, and move through other parts of the building. So it tends to be higher as other parts of the building, and this is for a reason. If you're going to be with like 100 people in a lobby, and you're going to stay there and wait for some, I don't know, for some lecture or something, and so you're standing there. If this lobby is like 3 meters high and you're standing with 100 people in like an area of, I don't know, 40 meters by 40 meters, probably everybody can fit in. It's not really very comfortable, is it? Because it would get quite warm and smelly real quickly because you're with so many people in such a small space. But if this room was all of a sudden like, I don't know, 10 meters high, then like there's better airflow, kind of it feels less claustrophobic. So yeah, it's you have far less problems if like an aula is or a lobby is a higher part of the building. Um, so you will just feel more comfortable in it. So this is something that you would always do in a lobby, try to make it feel higher as the rest of the building. So yeah, this is what space is all about. How does one relate to the area that one is in? We are in a hallway. It's taller, like it's quite tall. A lot of people move through this. It's like 5 blocks tall, high. This ceiling. It's just a lot higher as I usually tend to do these things. But yeah, you would feel comfortable if you were like with 10 people in this hallway. You would feel still very comfortable. Now, if you move on to a toilet, the ceiling is very low. It's like only 3 blocks high, this room, and I have a lot of space above here, which I'm not using. This is for a reason. Let's say you're taking a shit on this toilet, and you don't want to have the sound bouncing off from every wall, and you're taking a shit. You're sitting down, and it feels just more comfortable if the ceiling isn't that high all of a sudden. So yeah, this is why toilets can be kind of lower ceiling. As for bedrooms, the same thing counts. You're going to lie on a bed and it feels just more comfortable. If the ceiling is a bit lower, it's like a room where you would stand a lot. Because maybe it feels more cozy, probably more comforting, more yeah, more comforting. Here I'm doing something with light and dark again. This corner is kind of dark. This room isn't evenly lit. It looks a bit more interesting as it would. But anyway, this ceiling is also it's lower as the hallway again. But I think this room would feel comfortable to be in. Like the ceiling is like 4 blocks high. So yeah, if you're going to go in a public building where a lot of people go, let's say you go to school, like hallways tend to be higher as like classrooms or offices or such. If you're going to be like in a more modern, cheap office kind of setting, you will notice that the hallways tend to be higher as the offices because you're going to sit down in an office and it feels just more comfortable if it's not that high. And in classes as well, and something that if you're going to be in a public space as well, like the hallways. No, shouldn't say that else. Anyway, let's move on. We're currently in the sewers. The sewers are kind of low as well. Not a really comfortable space. It's a sewer, for Christ's sake. Doesn't need to be comfortable. But you're probably drawn to this light. But I'm actually not going to do that. If this were an adventure map, you would go to the light, but I'm not doing that because it's not, and I made this map and I know exactly what to expect. Now this is lit again. I'm not going in there as well. Instead I'm going up here. Not very comfortable. Again, I try to use this light as a suggestion where we should go, but we're not. Anyway, now we are kind of a really low ceiling setting. It's really dark because of lighting stuff in Minecraft, but this is more like a shady bar kind of deal. Hopefully this kind of emits that feeling. This was a really dark corner before I punched in this thing. So now it's darker again. Playing with light and darkness again. This bar is quite well lit, and this fireplace emits light as well, kind of make cozying up this side of the cafe. And then over to this side we have a place where shady characters can plan bank heists and robberies and play poker and stab each other and stuff. And this is the more comfortable side. This is kind of like cheap, where they drink cheap booze and booze up, and it's not really probably a very pleasant place to be. It's kind of more of a where alcoholics sit and drink and bad guys. So if this feeling kind of transcends from this room, then it's mission accomplished. And that's about it. That's how you use space and light to make like more interesting dynamic designs. Hopefully you find a use for this tutorial. Hope you liked it. Please share it with your friends, family and fellow Minecrafters. That would be really nice. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you had any use for this. Please share it and like it. Have an awesome day.